Okay, boys and girls, so we have arrived in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania from space, which I hope you enjoyed. And now we're going to go on the constitutional walking tour around historic Philadelphia. If you notice, there's some important words, big and bold, right above the tree on the right-hand side that says, "We the people." Do you remember what important document we read last week that started with "We the people"? All right, so boys and girls, Philadelphia today is the fifth largest city in the United States and the second largest city on the East Coast. Approximately 5.8 million people live in the Philadelphia metro. Here's our first stop. Independence National Historic Park. It was established in 1948. Independence National Historic Park covers more than 51 acres in Center City, Philadelphia. It celebrates America's birthplace at some of the most important historical sites in the United States, such as Independence Hall and the Liberty Bell. Here's a walking tour map of where you can start, all the amazing places you can see, and where you would end up. I'd really like to go to Betsy Ross's house. Where would you like to go? All right, so we're at the Independence Visitor Center, and it gives us the historical background of Philadelphia. It was founded by William Penn in 1682. America's birthplace, the meeting place of America's founding fathers. It grew into the largest city in the American colonies. It was the capital city of the United States from 1790 to 1800. Here is the President's House. It was the predecessor to the White House. Do you know what presidents lived in this house? George Washington and John Adams resided while serving as presidents of the United States. This feature exhibits on Washington's slaves that served in the House and the free African American community in Philadelphia. Boys and girls, here is the foundation of the house. A house is built on a foundation, whether you live in a single home or you live in an apartment or you live in a condo. Wherever you live, that home is built on a foundation to keep it secure. And this was the original foundation. How amazing is that? All right, this is also at the President's House, and this is the Slavery Memorial. Remember, a memorial is built so that we remember people or certain events. Here's a tour guide that actually works for the historic district. You're going to see him in many slides. He is pointing to the Plant Life mural wall. The Plant Life mural wall is one of thousands of murals in Philadelphia. It depicts local plant life, including plants that gave name to some of Philadelphia's very first streets. Philadelphia was the first planned city in America. Now, boys and girls, he's pointing to the United States Federal Courthouse for justice, the guardian of liberty. Sorry, I had garden on my mind. The United States Federal Courthouse. This is in the U.S. District Court. It is the Third Circuit Court of Appeals. It is one of only 13 federal appellate courts in the United States. Only United States Supreme Court is superior. All right, now, boys and girls, we're at the Declaration House. And again, if you can look and see, there's some pretty big words that we just talked about last week: life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. It was where Thomas Jefferson actually wrote the Declaration of Independence. This is a reconstruction of a home owned by Jacob Graff. Thomas Jefferson lived here when he wrote Declaration of Independence. Do you remember what year that was signed or what special date that was? Here's a recreation, a model of his bedroom, which at that time was called a bedchamber. Here is the parlor, which would now be called our dining room. And then we get to the Signer's Walk. These plaques commemorate the 56 members of the Continental Congress who risked their lives, reputations, and fortunes by signing the Declaration of Independence in 1776 and 1777. Plaques for the 56 signers of the Declaration of Independence are along the walk. Each plaque along the Signer's Walk bears the signer's likeness, a signature, occupation, and the colony. This one is of Thomas Jefferson. There's his signature, and he was a politician from Virginia. Our next stop is Congress Hall. Congress Hall is the former U.S. Capitol and site of two presidential inaugurations. Now, we just watched a presidential inauguration when Joe Biden became our current president. Did you watch any of that? Here at Congress Hall was the meeting place of the United States Congress from 1790 to 1800, when Philadelphia was the capital city of the United States. It is the site of Washington's second inauguration and Adams' only inauguration. The Bill of Rights, which we just talked about on Monday and Tuesday, was ratified here. Next, we're inside of Congress Hall. And now we're at the Liberty Bell. It is a quintessential icon of American freedom. The Liberty Bell weighs about 2,000 pounds. It was purchased in 1751 and made by the Whitechapel Bell Foundry in London. It is believed to have rung to announce first public reading of the Declaration of Independence. It is also the symbol of an abolitionist movement. You can see the crack, and you can also see the attempted repair. The Liberty Bell became a vibrant symbol in everyday American life. Like a religious relic, the Liberty Bell attracted huge crowds as it traveled throughout the nation. People wanted not only to see it, but to touch it, kiss it, and sit on it. The recognizable image of the bell was used to sell a wide variety of products. As a marketing tool, it linked political liberty with economic prosperity. It was used on stamps, in political campaigns, and in many other ways. The bell became an everyday reminder of liberties variously conceived. It was also known as the Women's Liberty Bell. And now we're at Independence Hall, the birthplace of America. Independence Hall was built in 1732 to serve as the Pennsylvania State Senate. It is where America declared independence from Great Britain, and it was where the Constitution of the United States was drafted, debated, and signed. We're inside in a courtroom of the Supreme Court. We're in the assembly room of the Independence Hall and the Rising Sun chair, where one of our founding fathers sat as he signed the Declaration of Independence. At Independence Hall is a George Washington statue. Continuing to travel to Old City Hall, the former home of the United States Supreme Court. And Old City Hall was a meeting place of the United States Supreme Court from 1791 to 1800. John Jay served here as the first Chief Justice of the United States Supreme Court from 1789 to 1795. Now we're at the Signer's Garden. dedicated to those who risked their lives for the cause of American freedom. The statue was inspired by Philadelphia merchant George Clymer, who signed both the Declaration of Independence and the Constitution of the United States. It commemorates the spirit of all those who devoted their lives to the cause of American freedom. Philosophical Hall. It's the oldest scholarly society in the United States. Look at the magnitude of these buildings and how well they've withstood time. They're amazing. Philosophical Hall was founded through the outgrowth of an idea fostered by Benjamin Franklin in 1743. It is the home for thinkers to discuss important topics, including business, politics, law, science, government, and health. Here's the Library Hall, the nation's first public library, lending library, and the former Library of Congress. Library Hall was founded by Benjamin Franklin in 1731. It served as the Library of Congress from 1774 to 1800. The statue of Franklin above main entrance symbolizes Franklin's views on government. Here's the second bank of the United States. It was incorporated in 1816, and it was one of the most influential financial institutions in the world until 1832. It was shut down by Andrew Jackson. It was designed by William Strickland. Here's a statue of Robert Morris, who was a financier of the American Revolution. He signed all three of the American founding documents, including the Declaration of Independence, the Articles of Confederation, the Constitution of the United States. We talked about the Declaration and the Constitution. We did not talk about the Articles of the Confederation. We will talk about that later in your schooling career. He helped finance the American Revolution. Now we're at the Quaker Ivy Gardens, the location of the 18th century Quaker schools and Quaker meeting house. In schools like the one that once stood here, Quaker teachers educated all children and servants, male and female, black and white, rich and poor. It is one of the 5 original Quaker meeting houses in Pennsylvania. Carpenter's Hall, the birthplace of American identity. Carpenter's Hall is the meeting place for the First Continental Congress, where Patrick Henry stated, "The distinctions between Virginians, Pennsylvania, New Yorkers, New Englanders are no more. I am not a Virginian, but I'm American." Those are pretty powerful words. These are the original chairs and banner carried by the Carpenters Company in the 1788 Constitutional Ratification Parade. Pretty amazing. The Newhall Military Museum, interpreting the role of the military in the early U.S. history. Original structure housed the office of the first Secretary of War, General Henry Knox. It contains exhibits highlighting the origins of the United States Army, the Marine Corps, and the Navy. Here's the first Bank of the United States. It sparked the first great constitutional debates. It was proposed by the first Secretary of the Treasury, Alexander Hamilton. We're at the Museum of American Revolution. It has an expansive collection of the Revolutionary era weapons, personal items, documents, and works of art. Collection includes the tent that George Washington used throughout the war. And take a look at what's written on the side of the building. We hold these truths to be self-evident, that all men are created equal, that they are endowed by their Creator with certain unalienable rights, that among these are life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness, that to secure these rights, governments are instituted among men, deriving their just powers from the consent of the governed. Declaration of Independence, July 4th of 1776. Here's Franklin's court at Ben Franklin's home. Ben Franklin's house once stood in Franklin Court before it was torn down in 1812. Ben Franklin's Museum in Franklin Court. Ben Franklin's post office and the museum. It is the only active post office in the United States that does not fly the American flag, because there was no American flag in 1775 when Benjamin Franklin was appointed Postmaster General of the colonies. Here's a church since 1695. Here's Betsy Ross's house, where she sewed the first stars and stripes. Her original home was built in 1740 and restored to look how it believed to have looked in 1777. According to legend, George Washington asked Ross to sew the first American flag. All right, boys and girls, we are going to end our tour here at the Arch Street Friends Meeting House. The Independence Visiting Center offers so many amazing places to see and go as you travel and learn so much about our country's heritage. We've spent the last few weeks talking about our government, talking about how it works, talking about how it helps us and supports us as individuals. We've talked about the U.S. Constitution, the Bill of Rights, the Declaration of Independence. I hope that you have enjoyed all the amazing places that we have gone.